Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Rita from Craftfully Made, and in today's tutorial I will show you how to sew the Gusset add-on to the Neeyah Peek Out Crossbody. Remember, you will need the original Neeyah Peek Out Crossbody in order to sew the Gusset add-on. In this video, I will show you how to construct the simplified version of the credit card slots, the interior zipper pocket, and of course, adding the gusset to the bag. This video also includes the birth and drop-in method. Timestamps are in the description below. So if you need to skip to any step in this process, click on that link and it will take you directly to that step. So are you ready? Let's get started. In this section, we will be working on the simplified credit card slots for the wallet. For this version, we will not be using any linings to back the credit card slots. If you remember the original, we had lining placed to the back of the credit card slots. For this version, we were doing away with the lining. So that means the backing of your vinyl, leather, or cork will be visible. So keep that in mind if you're doing this version of the credit card slots. For the zipper pocket, you will still need the lining for your zipper pocket. Okay, so no lining for the credit card slots, but you will need the lining for the zipper pocket. These are the pieces you're going to need for this simplified version. Your credit card slots backing, which is pattern piece FF, your middle credit card slot, which is pattern piece GG, and this is from the original pattern C, your credit card front. Okay, let's work on our credit card slots. So first you want to grab your middle credit card slot along with the credit card front. Place these two pieces wrong sides up. Draw a line 1/2 inch down from the top raw edge. Add double-sided tape at that top raw edge and then fold the top raw edge to the line we drew. All right, once you're done folding your edges down to the line you drew, you're going to take this to your machine, and on the right side, you want to top stitch at a 1/8 seam allowance from the top folded edge. With your top stitching done, you're going to turn both pieces to the wrong side, and you want to add double-sided tape to the sides and bottom raw edges. Do not remove your backing from your tape just yet. Set these pieces aside and then grab your credit card slots backing. We're going to fold this piece in half wrong sides together, making sure as you're folding, your folded edge here is measuring 8 inches. And just want to finger press at that fold. Then we're going to measure down 1/2 inch from this top folded edge and then add placement mark on both the right and left sides. We're measuring down 1/2 inch and then adding the placement marks. Then unfold your credit card slot backing. I'm going to leave this right side up. Grab your middle credit card slots, and then we're going to place this right side up right on those placement marks. Next, we want to draw a line 1/3 inches down from the folded edge of our middle credit card slot here. Then take this to the machine and sew these two pieces together following the line we drew. Once you're done sewing these two pieces together, what you want to do next is to add placement marks 1/2 inch down from the folded edge of your middle credit card slots on both the left and the right side. So you're going to leave this piece right side up and then come down 1/2 inch from this folded edge of your middle credit card slot and then add those placement marks. Then grab your credit card front, lay this right side up right on those placement marks. Leave your piece right side up and then draw a line down the center 4 inches in from one of the side edges. You want to start from the middle critical slot here and go to the bottom. And take this back to your machine and you want to sew following your line. You start at the bottom, go to the top, and as you get to the top of your middle critical slot here, you want to pivot and then sew back down. All right, now that is done, and this is our credit card panel. Turn this piece to the wrong side and want to add double-sided tape along the raw edges and just start from the middle crease here, coming down, and then just add some double-sided tape along the back. Then we're going to fold our credit card panel here in half, wrong sides together, making sure we're aligning our raw edges. Then just look your panel over and then trim off the side edges if needed. And take this back to your machine and top stitch at a 1/8 seam allowance from the top folded edge. And we're done with the Simplified credit card slots. And as you can see, if you have done the original version before, this is so much faster and simpler and easier to do compared to the original. So if you don't mind the backing of your vinyl cork or letter showing, this is the fastest and easiest way to do your credit card panel. So now if you were doing a vinyl version of your wallet, you would just take this piece and add it to your completed zipper pocket. If you were doing the fabric version, you would then edge coat all around your panel and then add it to your completed zipper pockets. All right, so something I want to touch on really quickly, the exterior zipper pocket, before we're done with this section. The way I am constructing my zipper pocket now is to add Dig-A-Fit Light to the whole piece. If you remember in the original, we have Dig-A-Fit Light. I'm using vinyl. So for the vinyl version, Dig-A-Fit Light was just added right to that zipper cutout. But I realized I like the sturdiness that Dig-A-Fit Light gives to the entire wallet. So I've added the stabilizer that is used in the fabric version, pattern piece L. That's the stabilizer I'm using to fuse to the back of my vinyl exterior wallet. So that's an option if that's something you want to do. Another thing I want to touch on is the lining I'm using for my zipper pocket. This is the vinyl version. If you remember in the vinyl version, the lining used in the original pattern is a non-fraying fabric because raw edges, and we're going to be edge cutting those edges. For this wallet, I'm using vinyl exterior, but for my interior, the lining, I'm using cotton fabric. So what I have done is to use the construction for the lining in the fabric version of the wallet to complete my lining since it's cotton. Does that make sense? So if this is something you want to do, you have some cute prints you want to use, but you want to use a vinyl exterior zipper pocket, then just do as I have done, follow the lining instruction in a fabric version to complete it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If not, just shoot me an email or comment and I'll try to explain it. In this section, we will be working on fusing and prep. First, you want to follow the fusing and prep section of the original crossbody to fuse woven interfacing and Dig-A-Fit Light to your pattern pieces. Then you want to grab your exterior gussets, lay them wrong side up, draw a line 3/8 of an inch down from the top raw edges, add Dig-A-Fit Light right below the line, center from the sides, and fuse. And then on the right side, you just want to mark the center at the top of your gussets. You also want to fuse woven interfacing to your main interior linings, pattern piece CC, and your interior gussets. Now, if you are doing the drop-in method, you want to draw a line on the wrong side of some of your pieces. The exterior back, upper front exterior, main interior linings, pattern PCC, exterior gussets, and interior gussets. You're going to lay these pieces wrong side up and draw a line 3/4 of an inch down from the top raw edges. At this point, you want to follow the original crossbody pattern to complete the front panel. Add the slip pocket to one of the main interior linings, and remember you will be using pattern PCC for your interior linings, your crossbody stripe, and your D-ring tab. In this section, we will be working on the zipper pocket. So grab the other main interior lining. You're going to place it wrong side up. You want to use pattern PCC to trace and cut the lines on the wrong side. Then with your lining piece still wrong side up, you're going to add double-sided tape above and below the cut lines and behind your triangles. Then we're going to fold our edges open, making sure the opening once we're done measures 1/2 inch. Once you're done folding your edges, you can add free check to the corners. Now you want to grab your 9-inch zipper and you're going to lay this wrong side down and add double-sided tape to both long edges. Make sure your zipper pull is on. Then grab your lining and you're going to place this wrong side down, making sure your zipper is centered within this opening. Then flip your piece to the wrong side and we want to add double-sided tape to this bottom long edge of our zipper. Then grab your zipper pocket and you're going to place this wrong side up, aligning one of the raw edges to the lower long edge of the zipper. Then turn this to the right side, take it to your machine and top stitch at a 1/8 seam allowance away from the lower zipper cutout. You want to start just past where the zipper will close and stop just past where the zipper will end. Do not backstitch, leave long tails to pull to the back and tie them off. Top stitching is done at the front, and at the back I have pulled my threads to the back and tied those off. Now you want to leave your piece wrong side up and add a piece of double-sided tape right below the stitch line on your zipper pocket. Now you want to pull down on the zipper pocket and just finger press at that fold. Afterwards, you want to add double-sided tape to the top long edge of your zipper. Now you want to fold the end of the zipper pocket up and align to that top long edge of your zipper. Now you want to turn this to the right side and top stitch at a 1/8 seam allowance around the other 3 sides of the zipper cutout. Start at the last stitch here, go up, across, and then end at that first stitch. Again, do not backstitch, leave long tails and pull to the back to tie off. Top stitching is done, and at the back, threads are pulled to the back and tied off. Now, if you are doing the breadth method, what you want to do is to grab scissors and cut open the bottom zipper here so that it is separated. Afterwards, you want to pull your lining out of the way, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to sew this at a 3/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to start at the top, sew it down, and you want to stop 1/2 inch away from the bottom, pivot, sew in 1 inch, stop, pivot, and sew down. And you're going to do the same on the other side. And afterwards, you're going to trim your seam allowance to a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but you are not going to touch the pocket open. You're going to leave that untouched. Do not trim the pocket opening. So here is a zipper pocket that I will be doing the breadth method. As you can see, sew down, stop, pivot, sew in, stop, pivot, sew down. And do the same on the other side. Trim off the seam allowance and then trim the corner here, but left the pocket opening untouched. If you are doing the drop-in method, you're going to pull your lining out of the way and just sew down the sides out of 3/4 inch seam allowance on both sides, and then trim off your seam allowance to a 1/4 inch. and our zipper pocket is done. This is for the dropping method and this is for the breath method. In this section, we will be prepping the gussets. So grab your exterior and interior gussets. With your exterior gussets, you're going to place your pieces right sides together, aligning the bottom edges, and then take to your machine and sew together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance from that bottom raw edge. Once that is done, you're going to turn to the right side, fold your seams open, and top stitch 1/8 seam allowance along both sides of the seams. You're going to repeat those steps for the interior gussets. In this portion of the video, we will be working on the drop-in lining method. For this section, we will be constructing the bag exterior. First, we want to grab our 13-inch zipper, and we're going to mark a line 3/4 inch in from the short ends where the zipper is going to close. So your zipper is going to be right side up, and you want to mark those lines. Then you're going to pinch at that line and turn your zipper at an angle. At this point, you can take to your machine and sew to hold that in place or put a pin to it. Now zip that to make sure it is even. Then you want to grab your front panel, place this right side up. You want to mark lines 1/2 inch in from the top left and 1/2 inch in from the top right edges. Then you want to add double-sided tape between those lines. Now you want to place your zipper right side down, aligning this angle end to the 1/2 inch mark on the top left edge, and then transfer your center and the other 1/2 inch mark on the top right edge to the zipper. Then you're going to take this to your machine and sew your zipper to your front panel at a 3/8 seam allowance. You're going to start 1 stitch away from that angle end of your zipper, sew at a 3/8 seam allowance, and you want to stop at that 1/2 inch mark and then sew off the zipper. Once you're done adding your zipper to your front panel, you will grab your exterior bag, place this right side up, and do the same thing. Mark lines 1/2 inch in from the top left and the top right edges, and then add double-sided tape between those lines. Then you're going to grab your front panel here with this unattached zipper. You're going to place this zipper right side down, aligning that angle end to the 1/2 inch mark on the right edge, and then transferring your center and your 1/2 inch mark on the left edge to your zipper. Now we want to take this to our machine and we're going to sew the zipper to our exterior bag at a 3/8 seam allowance. You want to start off the zipper here at the 1/2 inch mark, sew up to your seam allowance, 3/8, stop, pivot, sew, and stop 1 stitch past that angle end of your zipper. All right, we are done adding the zipper to the back exterior. Now you just want to trim off the extra zipper tip that's poking out. And then something I do is to sew the end of my zipper here because I do not want my zipper pull coming off. And then just zip your zipper, make sure everything looks good and it is not twisted. Next up is to add our exterior gusset to our piece. So we're going to grab the gusset, we're going to place this right sides together with the front panel. We want to match the center to the bottom center here of our front panel. I'm going to just turn it this way. You just want to clip this in place. Then you want to come to the top here and match up your top edges. Make sure you're pulling your zipper out of the way. And then if needed, in the corners here, you can make little snips into the gussets to ease it to the front panel. Mine seem to fit really well at this point. Now you just want to repeat for the other side. One thing, if you're going to be snipping your corners here, you just want to be mindful of your seam allowance, because your seam allowance is a 1/4 inch. So you don't want to snip too deep into your seam allowance. Next, we want to sew the gusset to our front panel at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Me personally, when I'm sewing, I like my gusset side up, and the wrong side of my front panel is going to be against the bed of my machine. With the gusset attached to our front panel, we need to sew the gusset now to the exterior back. So you're going to follow the same process. Gusset and back exterior, right sides together. You want to match up the centers. Align the top edges. Make sure your zipper tail is out of the way. And then one thing you want to do also is to zip your zipper, just to make sure it's not twisted when you go to sew. If you need to, make little snips into the gusset, the corner here, to ease it to your back exterior. And then you take the steel machine and sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Again, for me, I sew with the back, the wrong side of my exterior back against the bed of my machine. So this side is going to be up as I'm sewing. All right, the gusset is added to our front and back pieces. What we want to do now is to add pieces of double-sided tape about 2 inches to all the top seam allowances, and we're going to fold those open. Afterwards, you want to turn your piece right sides out. So this is right sides out. Just poke out your corners, look it over, make sure everything looks good and you're satisfied. Seems like I always have trouble with this particular vinyl sticking down with double-sided tape. So that is just going to keep coming loose. Anyways, it looks good. Now we need to add our D-ring tabs to the gusset. So we're going to add double-sided tape at this top edge of our gusset and then add our D-ring tabs. Now you want to grab your D-ring tab and you're going to place this center on the gusset. You want to make sure your D-ring is pointing downwards. And that mark you made on the D-ring tab earlier, you're going to make sure that is aligned to the top edge of your gusset. Right, then take the steel machine, you're going to baste it in place at a 1/8 seam allowance away from that top edge of your gusset. And you're just going to repeat the same for this other side of your gusset. Once you're done adding your D-ring tab to your gussets, you want to go ahead and add double-sided tape along the top edge of your back exterior on the wrong side. And then we're going to fold those edges down to the line we drew. We are done folding our edges and the back exterior is done. Now set this back exterior aside for now. In a section, we will be working on the back interior. Here we have the main interior linings and the interior gusset. Now we want to sew the interior gusset to the lining following the same steps we did when we sewed the exterior gusset to the back exterior. So we're going to place the gusset to the lining right sides together, match up the centers at the bottom, align the edges at the top, dip in the corners of the gusset to ease to the lining, and then we'll take it to our machine and sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. One thing you want to be mindful of as you're sewing your gusset to your lining, the lining with the zipper pocket, you just want to make sure your zipper pocket is out of the way because you do not want to sew through your zipper pocket as you're sewing through. So you just leave that out of the way as you're sewing. And we are done adding our gusset to the lining. So remember, I told you to be mindful of your zipper pocket when you go to sew so you do not sew through that. And guess who forgot? This girl. Yeah, and embarrassingly, it was not just one time, it was twice. Like seriously, I sewed through, unpick, went back to sew, and then sewed through again. Totally forgot to remove it both times. So yeah, do not be like me. Remember to pull your zipper pocket out of the way when you're sewing your gusset down. All right, so this is what we have. And right now at this point, we will add pieces of double-sided tape at those top seam allowances and fold them open. Once we're done folding our top seam allowances open, what we want to do next is to add double-sided tape all along the top raw edge on the wrong side. We're going to fold them to the line we drew. And we're going to leave this piece wrong sides out. In this section, we will be dropping in the lining. We have the back exterior and the back interior. What you want to do is add double-sided tape all along the folded edge of the lining on the wrong side. Then we're going to drop the lining into the exterior wrong sides together, making sure we are matching up the centers. And then you will just want to make sure your top folded edge of your lining is aligned to the zipper stitches, and then just match up your gusset seams. And as you come to your zipper tail, you just want to make sure that's up and out of the way. And this is your choice as you're dropping this in, if you want your zipper pocket to the back or the front of your bag. And even though I have double-sided tape, I will still add clips to this just to hold them in place. Next, we need to take this to the machine and top stitch all around at a 1/8 seam allowance. Your zipper tail will be pulled up and out of the way. And one thing you want to be mindful of is your lining. You want to make sure, pay attention that your lining is still aligned correctly as you are top stitching. Top stitching is done. Now what you want to do is to zip your zipper just to make sure everything looks good, and then add a zipper end at the end of your zipper tail. You can leave it this length, or if you want, just trim it down to about 1.5 to 2 inches. All right, once you're done adding your zipper end, what you want to do is pull your zipper like this, and there's this opening between the zipper and the lining. You just want to feed your zipper in that opening. All right. And that's how that looks from the top. So for your gap here, to narrow it just a little bit, what you can do is squeeze these two together and add a clip and hold this for about an hour or so. And I'll just put like a fleece or fabric, whatever you have, just to protect your vinyl. Just add a clip like that and hold for an hour or so. One last thing you might want to do after your bag is completed is to sort of train your bag into the shape you want it to be. And what that means is you're going to add clamps or clips to the sides and the bottom seam. So you'll roll these seams, and what I do is to add fleece or fabric between my clamps and my bag just to protect the fabric from the marks. And I'll be honest, it still sometimes leave marks, but those marks go away, so I'm not that concerned about it. So this is what you would do. Just roll those seams how you want them to be, and just add clamps. You just keep doing that for the front, and then once you're done, you do the back. And then just set this aside for a couple of hours and then remove the clamp. In this portion of the video, we will be working on the birth method. And for this section, we will be constructing the bag exterior. So you want to grab your 13-inch zipper, and on the right side of your zipper, you want to mark lines 3¼ inch in from where the zipper is going to close. Then you want to pinch at that line, turn your zipper on an angle, and then either take to your machine and sew to hold in place, or you can put a pin to it. And do the same on the other side. I just zip your zipper just to make sure it looks good. Then you want to grab your front panel, lay this right side up. You want to mark a line 1/2 inch in from this top left edge, and then 3/4 inch in from this top right edge. And then you want to add a piece of double-sided tape between those lines. Once that is done, what you want to do next is to draw a line 1/2 inch in from the top right edge, and then come down 3/8 inch. Now grab your zipper, and you're going to place this right side down, aligning this angle end to the 1/2 inch mark on the left side of your zipper. You want to transfer your center mark also to the zipper. So at this point, what you want to do is to fold the tail end of your zipper at an angle at that 3/4 inch mark. So you're going to just fold that like so. And as you're folding your zipper, you just want to make sure your angle end, that folded edge, you just want to make sure it's going to be out of your seam allowance at the last stitch. Remember that 3/8 inch line we drew? That's your seam allowance right there. So you just want to make sure that angle end will be out of that seam allowance when you go to sew. Okay, so you take this to your machine. You want to start a stitch away from this end, the left end of your zipper, and as you stitch, you want to stop right at that line you made, the 1/2 inch line. That's where you want to stop, and making sure your folded edge here is out of the seam allowance at that last stitch. And at this point, you can also just add a clip here to hold this in place if you like. And we are done adding the zipper to the front panel. And I'm going to bring this closer so you can see where that stitch ended. See that last stitch? The folded edge is out of that last stitch, and that's how you want that to be. Now you want to grab your exterior back, and you're going to lay this right side up. You want to mark a line 3/4 of an inch in from the left top edge and 1/2 inch in from the right top edge, and then add double-sided tape between those lines. Then you want to draw another line 1/2 inch in from that top left edge and going down 3/8 of an inch. Now you want to grab your zipper, and we're going to place this right side down. This angle end, we want that at that 1/2 inch mark on the right edge. And then we're going to transfer the center mark to the zipper. Now what we want to do is fold the tail end of our zipper exactly the way we did for the front panel. So you fold this at that 3/4 of an inch mark. And as you do so, you want to make sure that folded edge will be out of your seam allowance, that 3/8 inch line we drew. So you want to start your sewing at that mark, the 1/2 inch mark. You want to start your sewing 3/8 of an inch. Sew the zipper to the back exterior. You want to end one stitch away from this angle end on the right side. And we're done adding the zipper to our back exterior, and as you can see, that folded edge here at this tail end of the zipper is out of our seam allowance. Now we want to add the gusset to our pieces. So you're going to grab your exterior gusset, and you're going to place this right sides together to your front panel. You want to start at the bottom here, matching up your centers and just clipping it in place. And then we're going to align the top raw edges. Make sure your tail end of the zipper is out of the way. And as you come to the corner, if you need to, make little snips into the gusset to ease it to your front panel. And as you're making your snips, be mindful your seam allowance is 1/4 inch, so you do not want to go too deep. For me, my gusset seemed to fit into the corner, so I do not need to make little snips right now. All right, now we're going to repeat this for this other side. And one thing I forgot to mention when you attach your zipper to your panels is to just trim off the top here, your extra zipper that's poking out. Now you want to take this to a machine and sew the gusset to your front panel at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And as I sew, my gusset side is up and the wrong side of my front panel is against the bed of my machine. Once your gusset is added to your front panel, what you want to do next is to add the gusset to your exterior back. So we're going to follow the same steps. Gusset and exterior back right sides together, match up the centers, align the edges at the top, making sure your zipper tail is out of the way. And if you need to, make little snips into the gusset to ease to the corners. And then you would take this to a machine and sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Before you do, make sure you zip your zipper just to make sure it's not twisted. And when I go to sew, the wrong side of my exterior back will be against the bed of my machine, so this side will be up. With your gusset added to your back and front pieces, what you want to do next is to add pieces of double-sided tape about 2 inches to the top seam allowances, and we're going to fold those seam allowances open. Once your seams are folded open, what you want to do next is to add a piece of double-sided tape at that top edge of your gusset on the right side. So both gussets. And what we want to do now is to add our D-ring tab. So then grab your D-ring tab and you're going to center this on your gusset, and you want to make sure the D-ring is pointing downwards. So the mark you made earlier on your D-ring tab, you will align that mark to the top edge of your gusset. And do the same on the other side. And then you take this to your machine and baste your D-ring tab to the gusset at a 1/8 seam allowance away from that gusset top row edge. Okay, our bag exterior is done. And we're going to leave this piece wrong sides out. In a section, we will be working on the bag interior. So here you have your two linings and your interior gusset. At this point, we want to basically follow the same steps when we added the exterior gussets to our exterior pieces. The only difference when we're adding the interior gusset to our lining pieces is we're going to leave a turning hole in the bottom of one of our lining pieces. And for me, I will leave that turning hole in the lining with the zipper pocket. So as you go to sew your gusset to one of your lining pieces, you want to leave about a 6-inch turning hole at the bottom. We are done adding the interior gusset to our lining pieces and left a turning hole in the bottom of one of our lining. And at the top here, same as we did for the exterior, we've added double-sided tape to those top seam allowances and folded them open. Now what we want to do is to turn our lining right sides out. In this section, we will be birthing the bag. So grab your lining, you're going to place this inside your exterior right sides together. And as you do so, you just want to make sure the zipper end here, the tail end of your zipper, is folded and pushed down and along with your D-rings. And you just want to match up your centers and then align your gusset seams. You're going to clip all around, take this to your machine and sew at a 3/8 seam allowance. At this point, you want to reach into that opening you left in your lining and turn your bag right sides out. Then you just want to poke out your corners, make sure everything is good. And then push your lining back into the bag. And just roll the seams here at the top with your finger. All right. Now, before you take this back to your machine to top stitch, what you want to do is to zip your zipper just to make sure it's going to close. So you might want to pinch, squeeze here at the end here and get your zipper to close. All right. right, it looks good. Now I'm gonna zip that. And you just want to roll those seams with your finger, clip all around. Take this back to your machine and top stitch out of 1/8 seam allowance. With top stitching done, you're going to reach into that opening you left in your zipper pocket and pull your lining out. Place it right sides together, take it to your machine, and sew your lining close at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Push your lining back into the bag. And then you want to pull your zipper pocket out. And you're going to fold your edges in. Take this back to your machine and close your zipper pocket at a 1/8 seam allowance. Once you're done sewing your pocket closed, you're going to push that back into the bag. And then zip your zipper here, the top zipper, and you want to trim your zipper tail down to about 1.5 to 2 inches, and then add a zipper end. And once that's done, just pull your zipper like so, and you see this opening between your zipper and the lining, and that's where you want to push your zipper through. All right, that's how that looks from the top. And then to narrow your gap here, what you can do is squeeze this together and add a clamp and just set this aside for about an hour or two. And I'll usually add a piece of fleece between my fabric and the clamp. And then one last thing you can do once your bag is done is to ship your seams on the sides and the bottom here so that they lay the way you want them to. And what you want to do is just roll your seams and then add fleece or something so that you can protect your vinyl. And I will say, even with using the fleece, sometimes the clamps or the clip leave marks on my vinyl, but they go away after a little bit. So you just go all around the front and the back, roll your seams and clamp, and then just set it aside for a couple of hours. And we are done with the Gusset add-on to the Neeyah Peek Out Crossbody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you had a blast. Comment below if you have any questions or concerns, or shoot me an email anytime.